In this video, I'm going to show you how to take this photo of a waterfall and retouch it using Lightroom into this photo. Hi, my name is Tim Shields. I'm a landscape photographer and trainer, and in this video I'm going to show you how to use Lightroom to retouch this photo in some very easy steps. Now, this photo was submitted by Colleen Beta. She took this photo in Alaska, and she submitted the raw photo to me as part of our Facebook group. And if you would like to learn more about landscape photography, then please consider joining our Facebook group. It is the Tim's Photos Academy, and it's a great place for learning. So let's get started, and I'm going to show you how to retouch this photo. Here's the raw photo untouched. What I like to do is first think about which colors I'm going to enhance. And obviously there are some really nice greens that I want to enhance, but there's this secondary kind of orangey yellow of the moss that is coming out, and I want to enhance those colors because I think they're very unique to this image. So I like to start at the very top of the Lightroom set of sliders and then work my way down. I find that works very well for me. I always start with the highlights, so for a photo like this I'm going to drop the highlights down. I'm going to open up the shadows to 100%, and then I'm going to set the white point by holding down the Alt or Command key on a Mac and sliding to the right, and then anything that shows up as color is going to be a blown out highlight. And I think it's just fine to have some blown out highlights in the white water of the river. Now let's set the black point, hold down Alt, slide the black slider to the left. Anything that's showing up on the screen is also going to be a crushed black. I'm going to let go here, and I want to see some contrast in this photo. I don't want it to have an overly dreamy look. I definitely don't want that HDR look, which can happen if you don't have any blacks in the image. I'm pretty happy with that right there. And now I take a look at the histogram, and I see that most of the histogram is bunched up on the left-hand side. I'm just going to bump up the exposure just a touch to try and even out this histogram a little bit. 0.19 is what I'm going for, and there it is, 0.19. I'm going to check the white point one more time. Looking okay, a little bit of blown out highlights in the white water, that's fine. So now I'm fairly happy with the amount of light as a starting point. I typically go for clarity in landscape photos and move up clarity. In this one, I'm not going to, because I find that there's so much going on with all of the foliage and branches. I don't want it to become a distraction. But the dehaze I am going to use, and what I like to do with dehaze is bump it up a lot to see what gets affected. And you can see that when I go above 0, it's mostly the darks that are being affected, and it increases the contrast of the darks. So I'm going to put that up at a +10 and let go. I'm going to leave the vibrance for now. And now let's go back to the top and take a look at the temperature, the color temperature. And it's at 6200 to start. So what happens when I warm it up? It makes it a much more yellow picture. And if I go below 6200, which was our starting point, it cools it off. And I like the cooling of it. I'm going to be bringing out the yellows and oranges of that moss later on. So I'm going to cool it just a bit, just bring it down to a 6000 like that. Now let's take a look at the tint. It's at a +5 to start with. If we enhance the tint, it's increasing magenta. If I pull the tint slider to the left, it's increasing greens. Well, we've already got enough greens to start with, and I want to introduce contrast into this photo in every way possible. Contrast with the temperature and contrast with color. So I am going to bump up the tint to a +13. I'm leaving the clarity. I have the dehaze at +10. I'm leaving vibrance and leaving saturation. But now let's get down to the HSL sliders, and I've got it on saturation. And what I want to focus on right away is this orange, to see what happens if I crank up the orange and nothing really gets touched. It's not doing much. But now let's take a look what happens if I bump up the yellows. Okay, not a lot. Not a lot is happening. So now, if I go to the hue, and now change the hue on orange, moving it to the left brings out that moss. I'm going to leave it at a -2. Now let's see about the yellow with hue. Move it to the left, move it to the right. To the left, and to the right. I'm going to pull it to the left because I like that contrast that it's bringing out. Just a little, a -4. Now let's take a look at the blues on hue, and there is no real difference, so I'm going to leave it at a 0. And just take a look at green. I don't want to touch the green. So now I can go back to, I'm going to go to luminance, and let's turn up the luminance on orange and see what happens, and there we go. Now you can see that the moss is coming to life. So I want that moss to pop. So I'm going to bump it up a fair bit. I'm at a +65 on orange, and let's just take a look at the yellow. What happens? Yellow is really, it's increasing the luminance on the entire image, so I'm going to leave it there. Now what happens when you increase luminance, you are typically decreasing saturation. So since I increased the luminance on orange, now I'm going to increase the saturation on orange. I'm going to increase it a lot just to see what it does. Decrease it, increase it, decrease it. So I like the look of bringing out the oranges, and I'm leaving it high at a +48. I'm going to remove the chromatic aberration. And now let's go down to the camera calibration. I want to see what happens when I increase the saturation for reds. Kind of makes it a little more spicy. I'm going to leave it at a +2. And on the greens, I'm not going to touch it. I'm going to leave it as is. And see if anything changes on the blue. I don't think it will. There isn't much that will be individually changed on the blues here. So I'm going to leave it. It's changing the entire image, and I don't want to change the entire image. I want to change specific colors. Now it's time to bring out the brush. And the brush is going to make all the difference in the world on this photo. So let's start with a brush on the white water. Just for the white water, I'm going to reduce the brush size, and I want this white water to really pop. I want it to stand out and draw the eye. And of course, you know that whatever the brightest areas of a photo are is what draws your eye. So I've painted this in, and now if you want to see where I painted, I can click down on the bottom here that says Show Selected Mask Overlay, and then I can see where I have painted. And I want to paint this little bit of a waterfall, this little one right here, this little one under here, and these guys here. This stuff here is all really white, but maybe we'll just get a little bit of that. A little bit of that white as well. And I am going to turn off the mask overlay and now turn up the exposure. So if I turn it up a lot, you see what happens. I don't want it to blow out that much. I think a 0.28 about does it. So I've increased the whites, but now I want to see if I can pull out some color in this pool right here and in the dark water right here. And I think this is what is going to hopefully make this photo really come to life. So I'm going to click a new brush, zero it out, select this area. So I'm just painting over for now, and select this dark water right here, this big pool. And my intent is to pull color out of this. And maybe a little bit right in here, there's some darker water. What I'm going to do now is pull down the temperature slider. So temperature makes all the difference in the world. There it is at a -100. Obviously we don't want that, and this is what it looks like if I warm it up, and I don't like that. But at a minus 13, it has introduced some blue. A little more. Minus 22. So there's one more thing you can try when you're really trying to introduce color into a brushed area, and that's click on this little envelope looking thing here. It says color, and pick a color that you like. In this case, I'm picking that royal blue color, and then I can adjust this slider here for the amount of saturation for that color. See, if I go up to plus 100 saturation, it's going right to the top. If I go down to 0 saturation, it goes right down to the bottom. So if I try this at a 10, it's just introduced that bit of a little bit more of blue into it. We can also see what does it look like if I introduce green. It's always just fun to try out. So there it is at 60%, but if I go down to 6, it's kind of introducing it as when you combine the color and the temperature change, it's like a bit of an aqua. I kind of like it. Make a mental note of that, go back to the blue, back to the green. I am torn on this one. I'm kind of leaning toward the green and the aqua that it's producing. It just seems a little different, a little unique. Again, it's just creating contrast within the interest, or within the image. And to quote photographer Serge Ramelli, it's complexifying the light. So I'm going to leave it there, 11% on the green, click out of it, and click done. So now the water has been recolored. And so far I'm liking what I see here. Now I find that the areas along the top and the side are somewhat distracting because the main subject of this image is the waterfall. This waterfall is the hero of the story, and I want the eye to go directly to the waterfall and not be distracted with things that are on the outside periphery of the image. So I would like to darken some of that outside, and the way that I darken the outside quick and easy is with post-crop vignetting, highlight priority, pull it to the left. I don't usually like to go much over 13, 14 on this tool. I don't want it to be completely black, but it's just to draw the eye towards the middle of the image. Now there's something else. So the waterfall in this image is the hero of this story, and I want the eye to be pulled right to the waterfall. And it seems to me that we can do some cropping on this. I'm going to select the crop overlay tool, and let's try and pull this top waterfall into the top third of the image. So if I crop down like this, now you can see this top third line on the crop overlay tool is right on the top waterfall. And I like this cropping better. And now the waterfall is more, it's been isolated more in the image. So I'm going to do a sharpening on it. And the sharpening tool is right here. Right now we're at 40, and if I bump this up to 75, and I'm going to put a 10 on noise reduction. There's very, very, very little noise in this picture. It's actually a fantastic photo. There's no noise, so I'm going to just leave that at a low 10. And there's nothing I need to mask out using the masking slider on this one. Let's just try and see about, yeah, so anything that is black, when I hold down the Alt key and pull the masking slider over, anything that is black will not be sharpened, and this is very useful for skies. So I'm going to not sharpen the moving water and let go, and this is looking good. If I hit I can see that this image is 6,064 pixels wide, and that's perfect for framing. it's still a very nice large image. So this, in my view, is ready to be printed and hung on the wall. But there's one more thing that I would do if I was going to post this image to social media, and especially Instagram. I think that this image could use just one more little bit of a wow factor for social media purposes, and that is a light source. There's no light source in this photo, so let's make one. And we can do that all inside Lightroom using the Radial Filter tool. So I'm going to do a number of radial filters, and I'm going to put a sun right here. And on the first one, I'm going to just make a small radial filter, make sure that invert has been selected, turn up the exposure to 0.78, turn up the temperature to about a 50. And that's the beginning of our sun. Now I click on New, and I'm going to make another radial filter, and I'm going to make it a little bit larger than the first one. And again, I'm going to turn up the exposure to 0.7, turn up the temperature, make it very warm to simulate sunlight, and click New again. And by the way, the feather for these radial filters is at 50, which is what I want. This one I'm going to make even bigger. Center it again over top of what I've already done. Turn up the exposure. 0.59, turn up the temperature. Okay, and again, an even bigger one. Center it. Maybe a little too big on this one. Move it up. Turn up the exposure. The idea is at the very top of this image, I don't want to see the branches. I want to make it seem like the sun is overexposing all of that. I'm going to move this up like that. I'm going to move this one up as well. Turn that one up just a little bit. That's the very middle sun. So it's given it a different look, and this is the type of thing that when you are viewing this as a small image on Instagram, it can look pretty darn good. So I'm going to crop this now for Instagram because Instagram likes a square image, a 1:1 aspect ratio. So how I do that is I go into the cropping tool, I click on the padlock, I click on 1:1, and now adjust to where I want the framing to be, and I want that waterfall to be centered left to right, and I want that sun right up at the top, almost like the sun is coming through the bush. Double click on it, and there we have our Instagram picture. Now to export for Instagram, you go File, Export, and scroll down. I want it to be an sRGB because Instagram likes that. That's your working RGB. It's a JPEG, and the dimension, I'm going to put it at, well, you could put 1200, you could put 1080 here. I'm going to say 1200. And I don't need to enter anything into the second field because we've already set what the cropping is going to be. Resize to fit. It's at 300 dots per inch. And I'm putting it in the same folder as the original photo. Put in a subfolder called Small Files and Custom Text Waterfall for IG. Click Export. And we have our photo as a JPEG saved. So that's it. If you enjoyed this tutorial, I would ask that you subscribe to my YouTube channel. Click the red subscribe button, and right beside it is a little bell. If you can click that as well, that means you will be notified whenever I upload a new tutorial video. In addition, if you want to take a look at the profile set that I've created for landscape photos, visit timsphotos.com and watch the tutorial videos there. They will show you how to edit your photos using Lightroom faster and easier than ever before. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.